Layoffs and program closures at Laurentian University announced last week hit closest to home in Sudbury. Nick Dunne covers the Northeast from there for Ontario Hubs, and he joins us now. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jan.
Now, Nick, you've been following the troubles of Laurentian for a while. Overall, what's your impression of how Sudbury is handling the news now that tangible cuts have been made?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jan. The cuts have been very difficult, especially on the Laurentian community. I don't think I've spoken to a faculty member or a student who hasn't been in tears through this process. The uncertainty in February leading up to now, which is exam time, to figure out whether or not their program had been cut. As far as the larger community, it's been very difficult. Laurentian plays a pretty large economic role in the community. And in terms of Sudbury's greater kind of story, I know, anytime I go out and talk to people about Sudbury, they talk about the regreening efforts here that were done in the 70s and how key Laurentian was to that process. You could look at pictures of Sudbury, 20, 40 years ago, and it's just rubble and dust, and there was a lot of acid rain here. And it was Laurentian's environmental science program partnered with local leadership that really turned things around, and even the snow lab, a neutrino lab where Nobel Prize physics was won. Laurentian's physics programs have been cut, and they're no longer likely part of the research that goes on there. It's a world-renowned lab that Stephen Hawking has visited, and it's been a big loss for the community so far.
Well, let's talk about the economic fallout. What does this exactly mean when we talk dollars and cents to the city?
Yeah, so there's been local economists rather, who've talked about this. The Sudbury Star put out an article estimating it at around $100 million. And to break that down, I spoke with the president of the Northern Policy Institute, Charles Sirtwill. And basically, it runs down like this: with 110 faculty gone, with about a salary of about $150,000 a year, you're looking at $15 million of salary cut right there off the bat. The 5% pay cut to the remaining faculty is another at least $2 million. You think about students who might not be going to Laurentian anymore, fewer students, due to fewer programs. So that's a lot of spending power in bars, restaurants, nightclubs, cultural centers. Then the other thing you have to consider are spouses of faculty. So they're contributing with jobs to the local economy. If those professors, faculty, staff have to leave to find another job elsewhere, that's more money. So you're looking at least $20 million right there. Then there are the businesses that provide services to Sudbury, everything from food services, office supplies, your electricians, plumbers, everything there. We don't know what the cuts are there yet, but that'll have an impact. And then you think about, with all that salary gone, that trickles down into businesses, grocery stores, restaurants, et cetera, who then have to make their own cuts potentially to staff. And you can really see how that $20 million cascades significantly. And again, they've been talking about $100 to $150 million, but it's far bigger than those layoffs themselves at the very least.
And we know that the university obviously serves a large population, not just the city of Greater Sudbury, but the larger region. Do we have an idea of the potential repercussions for the region at large?
Yeah, so it's tough to say. Really, the larger region does rely on Sudbury as an economic engine that kind of feeds these other communities. People rely on, shopping here. It's hard to say the exact impacts, but this place is really the center for the Northeast and arguably Northern Ontario. So it certainly will have an impact, and the school really had a large domestic base in Northern Ontario. So those are a lot of students who might have to go significantly further away for their education, and retaining youth is a significant priority for all levels of government in Northern Ontario. Just keeping things economically going and keeping the population young and working.
I want to pull a clip from this past Monday. Sebastian Lalonde, chairperson of the Canadian Federation of Students Ontario, had this to say on our show this week.
Laurentian University was one of the few places where you could get a fully Francophone post-secondary education. And yet, as we've seen, that and Indigenous Studies and Indigenous language programs are the very first things to be cut when we're seeing financial cutbacks. And that is a direct attack on the Francophone community, on the Indigenous communities, and especially for such a tricultural, not only university, but a tricultural community in Sudbury.
Now, that was on Monday with Nam Kiwanuka. Sebastian Lalonde mentioned the tricultural mandate there. Do you think Laurentian has put that at risk?
Well, more than half of the programs in French were cut, but there are 24 programs that remain to be taught in French. As far as the Indigenous Studies program, they're going to be replacing it, it seems, with what they call a program rooted in Indigenous perspectives, or at the very least using courses from their Faculty of Arts to kind of supplement that with some level of, Indigenous education. However, I think faculty and students in both of those, in all those programs, would tell you that, those levels of cuts, really do not live up to that tricultural and bilingual mandate. So, I mean, they're there, but as far as, the strength of those programs, it's really hard to say. At the very least, they've been hampered, that mandate, at the very least.
Now, Nick, you spoke to one Indigenous Studies professor who is still feeling confused about the state of these programs. Can you explain sort of the confusion there?
Yeah, so the Indigenous Studies program is in a very strange predicament right now because it is a program that belongs to the University of Sudbury, one of Laurentian's federated institutions. However, those students get a Laurentian degree as part of the federated agreement. So in this whole restructuring process, Laurentian is terminating its agreements with all the federated universities, or at least it's trying to. And this leaves the Indigenous Studies program in limbo, effectively. So right now, on an interim basis, the Laurentian University will be offering 6 courses from the Indigenous Studies program taught by sessional instructors. Note that that's not faculty. But then they'll be offering a program in Indigenous relations, or perspectives, rather. So this leaves the University of Sudbury's Indigenous Studies program really in a state of uncertainty. I spoke with a professor who said in a union meeting to expect a notice of termination by May 1st, but there have been really no official announcements on this yet. And I think while faculty are expecting the worst here, the dust has yet to settle on the future of this program and what the University of Sudbury plans for it.
I want to pick up actually on students. You had a chance to speak to some students. There were protests happening on campus, particularly about cuts to programs like the midwifery program. How are they feeling?
Devastated. I mean, just really, really reeling from this right now. I mean, again, the future of these programs are so hard to say. Well, some of them have been cut, evidently, but students, don't quite know where they're going to go. I mean, the university is going to be offering them electives, online courses, perhaps letters of permission to take courses at other institutions to complete their degree. But, especially if you're early on in your degree, you might not be able to cobble together a degree with the credits that you have. So transferals are a very real possibility for other institutions, and only perhaps a certain number of your courses will count to that degree. So this is hours of work and thousands of dollars that could be lost effectively to these students who've been affected by the cuts directly. And on top of that, again, this has been going on as students are doing their exams right now. So they're fretting about exams. They don't know where they're going to be, in the fall. It's very difficult for a lot of students. And again, lots of tears, lots of dismay, and, people thinking about leaving Laurentian. I've heard that a number of times.
Nick, I have about 30 seconds left. I do want to ask you live in Sudbury, you report on Northeastern Ontario. Do you have any personal feelings about what's happened there over the last few weeks?
This is a major devastation, but this isn't the first time that this has happened to Sudbury. I mean, you just have to look at Inco and Falconbridge in the 80s, significant cuts there that really devastated the community. But on the flip side of that, Sudbury's had 2 of the longest labor strikes in Canadian history. First with Inco, and then in 2010 with Valet. So this is a community that doesn't go down without a fight. So right now things are looking really tough. We don't know what's going to happen with the CCAA and how they're going to pick up the pieces of this afterwards, but they're going to be fighting, and there's hope yet.
Well, a story that we will continue to follow. Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining the show, and we'll see you again next time.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.